But if you're someone who's very cognizant of anti-inflammatory measures and you don't like the idea of injectable glutathione and you want to really leverage a lot, I would say, like 5 grams of. All right, we're recording. We're recording. Cool. All right, hey everybody. So again, I have got a lot of videos backlogged. I don't really have any of them uploaded yet, but we're going to touch on the post I have on the supplement profile series about NAC. So this was meant to be relatively in depth, but also easy enough for someone who just finds this on Google to get all the information that they need, and then to touch briefly on some other sorts of things. So what is NAC? Obviously, these are just delineated by subheadings, and I'm going to riff on them a little bit more as I see needed. So we have NAC, which is N-Acetyl Cysteine, and essentially it is a antioxidant that has got a lot of attention recently due to COVID-19 and some studies using N-Acetyl Cysteine as a COVID-19 preventative measure. And a lot of people before that, however, were using this in the bodybuilding realm to help with liver enzymes. And I'm going to touch briefly in on that. So, interestingly enough, there is some contention about NAC as a supplement because it was approved as a prescription medicine for paracetamol or Tylenol overdoses, and that's actually what the World Health Organization has it for. However, the contention is that it has been a supplement for so long, or it has been marketed as a supplement for so long, that now that it's being used in the context of COVID-19 preventative care, that people are starting to think that the FDA is cracking down on this solely because of COVID and that they want people to stay sick. Personally, I don't think that's the case. There's a lot the FDA doesn't do, and if you're unaware, the FDA doesn't really regulate any supplements to begin with. For example, Angel Dust, the pre-workout that I have over there, um, I mean, it's not like regulated by the FDA at any capacity. You can create your own supplement lines of products, and then your manufacturer might do good practices where it says, hey, you can't put DMAA in this. It is a banned substance, or it can't be marketed as a dietary supplement. But there are some manufacturers that let it just go by the wayside. There are some products that still have NAC, like 5% Nutrition has their liver and organ defender, which has NAC in it. NutriCost still produces their NAC products. You just can't find them on Amazon because Amazon has pulled them as a result of the FDA's intervention. But more importantly, how does it work? So when it comes to NAC, people usually use it for glutathione, or GSH in the articles and in the literature that cites it. While it does convert into glutathione, NAC is primarily used to replenish depleted stores of glutathione in your body. There's a lot of studies that show that when you have regular baseline, or decent serum levels of glutathione, that the bolus administration of N-acetylcysteine does not produce a significant increase in these. You're more often better or not just using an injectable format of it, or having a mega dose of a bolus oral supplementation of glutathione or L-glutathione. Instead, the antioxidant properties do not only come from glutathione. One thing that I found was that through the metabolism of NAC, it will slowly break down into cysteine, but it will also, or it gets broken down into something called sulfane sulfur, which is highly antioxidant. And this is what is suspected to be the main antioxidant ingredient in a lot of the literature that gets cited in here. When we look at it from the practical application of a bodybuilder, obviously training protocols will elicit an inflammatory response in your skeletal muscle. If you're training legs, you're going to get a huge pump. That pump is then breaking down muscle tissue that causes systemic inflammation. Alongside of that, having a highly inflammatory diet with things like heme and like meats will start to produce some systemic inflammation, just in general, as well as needing some amount of inflammation in your body. So the sulfate sulfur will help protect against that, as well as the GSH. And in the context of bodybuilding, you're often seeing people taking things like 17 alpha alkylated or methylated oral steroids, and those will wreak havoc on both your kidneys and your liver. And this liver damage will cause a depletion of glutathione, and that is where the intervention of NAC can help, one, produce more antioxidant protection, as well as raised glutathione levels. And I talk about that a little bit down at the bottom. But one thing that I found very interesting too while going throughout this is I kind of had this question myself. So I Googled it. I was like, okay, well, if we take NAC because it'll break into cytosine and then cytosine to glutathione, why do we need to have a deacetylation of N-Acetyl Cysteine into cytosine? It kind of brought me back to the post on citrulline, where if you have citrulline, it's better than arginine in raising serum arginine levels for nitric oxide uptake. But I learned that there was actually cysteine toxicity, which I honestly didn't even know about. Like I mean, looking back, it's a little silly to realize, but when I was formulating an EAA complex, I didn't realize that there was an upper threshold of cytosine, and this can, it's not going to like kill you, but it can make you incredibly nauseous. It can make you feel unwell. But the NAC sort of acts like a buffer to some degree because when you need to deacetylate it, there's a limit on how much cytosine can be produced at once. It means that theoretically the exposure to cytosine is so minimal by the time it gets degraded, there isn't any sort of overload as a result. So here I just talk about, what dose you typically see taken. The people that, say they use it for COVID-19 protection and preventative measures is about 1,200 milligrams. But what I see NAC typically taken at is about 600 milligrams per day. I know that NutriCost has like a 200 milligram one that was used a while ago. Their 200 milligram was the vegetable cellulose tablets. Now they have the gelatin ones, which are about 350 milligrams of NAC. So can't really use those being vegan, but yeah. Some people, like I mentioned earlier, they'll do the 600 twice a day. Some people would do 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day for a couple of weeks. And yeah, so there is one that references treating people who have actual impairment of glutathione production in their liver using 100 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. And they're taking about 4.5 grams of NAC, which is obviously just under the toxicity threshold of cytosine, but that obviously is not really a cause for concern for many other people, considering you don't need that much to begin with. So I just put it in a very general overview for some people. If you really want to leverage the most out of it, you can take 1,000 milligrams. That's perfectly fine. Because there are more beneficial things that you can use. I have a post about cinnamon, which is a very potent antioxidant. It's actually very good for you, and a lot of other things. And I feel like with NAC being so pricey now to the attention of the fact that it's gotten and it being pulled off of shelves, I mean, the least amount you can take with it, the better. And a lot of people genuinely don't need the sort of level of antioxidant protection that it provides for glutathione. More or less, the 1,000 milligrams would be good for people that are producing a lot of inflammation either through their high protein diet or people that are active every single day and are athletes. I feel like they would benefit best from it post workout. And yeah, this is just the COVID-19 study that doesn't really matter. But yeah, for the most part, when I do these blog posts, if there is a lot of information that I would like some people to read, like the N-Acetyl Cysteine functions as a fast-acting antioxidant by triggering intracellular H2S and sulfane sulfur production, I have all those cited there. Sometimes I can get them to just have the citations be the titles, so you can find what is more interesting towards you. Sometimes I get stuck with these because they're just PDF downloads through places like ResearchGate or like Cell.com or Nature.com, and I can't unfortunately do all that without going to like Google Sheets and putting that in and then changing the title and then putting those in. So then sometimes you also just get the PubMed. I don't like to source outside of clinical journals for any of my information. I will anecdotally do some things where there's not a lot of abundant apparent information, things like hormone protocols, so things like testosterone and trenbolone, things of that nature, where there isn't much clinical literature. I will sometimes go back and forth between forms and then try to find that information and then see if there's any translatable, relevant clinical literature. But that's it for the most part. And aside from that, that's really all I really wanted to riff on the topic. You can get away with taking anywhere from 500 milligrams, like even like as little as 300. If you're just wanting a general beneficial antioxidant, again, for the liver support for people that are taking 17 alpha alkylated anabolic steroids or people that are just taking orals in general, if you're coming off and you're finally done, I would genuinely recommend 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day for a couple of weeks. That's what I was taught. And when it comes to this was just not to give anyone a dosing guideline to say that you can have up to 4.5 grams. I'm just saying NAC is not very toxic, and it doesn't appear to be at all. But if you're someone who's very cognizant of anti-inflammatory measures and you don't like the idea of injectable glutathione and you want to really leverage a lot, I would say, like 5 grams of cinnamon per day alongside 1,000 milligrams a day would be maximally beneficial. But again, you can take that lower reference range and really use that to get yourself decent benefits overall if you want to be more cost efficient about that. But aside from that, there is not much more information I really want to riff on at the moment. Obviously, if you guys have any questions or any concerns, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to give me a direct question, you can reach me either through the contact me form on the website, through contact, and then dropping it here, or feel free to send me a DM at Instagram. My Instagram is just at Damon's Vegan, all one word. And just go ahead and say, hey, I saw your video on NAC, or hey, I saw your video about whatever the topics I have, like creatine. I just had a general question. Would you mind answering it? For the most part, if I'm not busy, I will get back to you guys as soon as I read it, and I love to have a conversation with people. If it is something more in-depth and really more personal, and it is a lengthy question, unfortunately, I can't really sit down and do like protocol designs or things like workout plans. If I did do that, it would have to be something where I get compensated for it. But for the most part, general questions are very much welcome, and they also do give me an idea for general videos to make. So again, feel free to go to the website and see any of my other posts related to the matter. I have the video on creatine, as well as I'm currently in production of the video on testosterone and trenbolone as well. Then every now and again, I do things outside of that, like general self-improvement questions and just things like communication, because I feel like those are important as well to make your life more well-rounded and to help people sort of cultivate more, just fun. But yeah, that should do it. And yeah, doodles.